So to get that nice like whip with your arm, that arm speed as people like to talk about, it's got to be from your hips and it's got to be from this weight transfer, okay? So when he transfers that weight, the front hip is what brings the arm up.
Hey, I thought it was all over.
I mean, if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you're here for a reason. You're here to understand more about Bryce Young. You're here to see the future of our team and do so much more. So we're going back in time. We're actually going to December 11th, 2021. First down training. Coach Grant is doing a breakdown of Bryce's throwing motion, his mechanics, and everything like that. So let's try and understand more about Bryce so we can better understand our quarterback number one in Carolina. Let's go.
What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some of Bryce Young's throwing mechanics. So we're going to be talking about how he's able to have such a smooth throwing motion, how he's able to engage his hips, transfer his weight to get more velocity and more distance on his throws, and then we're going to talk about how he's able to have such a quick release. So I hope this video helps you guys out, give you some insight on his throwing motion, the best player in college football right now.
Again, shout out First Down Training.
First thing I want to talk about here is Bryce Young's back leg placement, how he's able to transfer weight, and how he's able to get his hips to rotate through on this throw, okay? So now, I think this is probably the best position that you could be in when you're throwing a ball because, again, his feet aren't super narrow. Everybody loves to talk about, like, oh, you want to make sure that this back leg's under your frame, but a lot of guys, when they do that, their feet get super close together. So you want to make sure as a quarterback that this back foot doesn't get too wide and it's just underneath your back shoulder. Reason for that is so you can ultimately drive your back knee through, aka get that front hip to open up. So playing quarterback, when you get to this position, you got about 70% of your weight on the back leg. Your upper body's shifted back. You look at guys like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they all get to this specific position. Now, the goal of this is to be able to take that weight from your back leg, that's 70%, and shift it to the outside of this front leg because that's what will get your hips to rotate through. Everybody's probably seen Dak Prescott do that hip drill. That's what that's for.
I've absolutely seen it. I've seen him get roasted for it. Shout out Dak.
It's for weight transfers to get your hips to roll into the throw before the football, almost like hitting a baseball, right? So you see when Young goes to transfer his weight, right? That's what allows the hip to open up. Anybody can try this. What you should do is try to stand with weight on your back leg and try to open up your hips. You can't do it. You can't open up your front hip with like 90% of your weight on your back leg. Now get 90% of the weight on your front leg, try to open up your front hip, and it's much easier to rotate, right? Now, you're not thinking about that. The timing of the weight transfer has to be correct with your upper body, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But just know that it's about weight transfer, you guys. If you can transfer that weight from that back leg to the front leg, that's what will get that front hip to open up. And when your front hip opens up, your back hip comes through before the football. And when your back hip can come through before the football, that's going to give you a lot more power, a lot more torque, and take stress off of your elbow and your shoulder. Now,
no, I didn't actually know the deep mechanics of this. So this is interesting to see how they're planning it. Kind of how he's, again, distributing weight on his, feet right there. That's very interesting. I just didn't know that.
why is that important in terms of where your back leg is stationed, right? Because what so many quarterbacks do is that this back leg will be way back here. It'll be outside of their frame. Now, the problem with that is that when you go to transfer weight, when you go to shift weight, what ends up happening is your back foot kicks behind. Your back foot trails behind the motion, and your shoulders end up coming through before your hips. But when you can get that back leg to a good position, that will bring your back knee through, and when your knee goes through, your hip goes through, and that's when you can get to that position where your hips end up leading the ball. That's the ultimate goal. Get the hips to go through before the football does to get more power on this throw.
Okay. That makes more sense. I like how he's breaking it down, so shout out to them. I'm probably going to do more reactions and stuff like that. Obviously, we're not in breakdown season. We're not getting coaches going out there and standing at a podium and giving us body language, giving us some answers. So obviously, as we get closer to the draft and we do start doing more of those, we will obviously be breaking open the breakdowns more often. But yeah, I did not before this. Obviously, you think of, transferring of motion and weight and all that other stuff. But it's interesting that it's just strictly to open up the hips. And obviously, it makes the Dak Prescott thing look much more normal, I would say.
Now, let's talk about the upper half, right? So I talked a little bit about timing of the weight transfer because you might think, well, why wouldn't quarterbacks just stand with 70% of their weight on the front leg and then just throw because their weight's already transferred so they don't have to worry about it. It's about timing of the weight transfer because when you guys can get that weight to transfer to that front leg and at the same time your front shoulder is closed like Bryce Young's is, that's how you get torque. They call that hip and shoulder dissociation. So what does that actually mean? That's like in baseball or in golf, for example. When you take the baseball bat back, your front foot comes down, and then what do? You like pivot off that back foot, squish the back bug. I'm not a baseball expert, but your hips end up bringing the bat through, and that's where that bat speed comes from. Then like same thing in golf. You go back with the club, and then your hips in that weight transfer to the front leg bring the club through the motion, and you get that club speed. So to get that nice like whip with your arm, that arm speed as people like to talk about, it's got to be from your hips and it's got to be from this weight transfer, okay? So when he transfers that weight, the front hip is what brings the arm up. He takes this thing in this nice backstroke right here, and it doesn't have to be a perfect L position like a lot of people say. Just keep that front shoulder closed. Make sure it's closed when that front foot gets down. Now that weight transfer and that hip drive is what brings the arm up to this 90-degree angle, and that's what just provides that whipping motion to the throw. Now, this is the point that we want to get to. It's from the weight transfer, the hip drive. That's what will bring the arm through. Now, a lot of guys have a make or break situation right here with their front side. So their front side will either kill.
Yeah, he's kind of just got his hand like chicken winged up there. He's got his hand like chicken winged up there, so that's interesting. Should he have his hand out, or how should that work? Are you trying to give more torque to the top half of the body, or that's again the mechanics of this are so studied and so focused on and everything like that that it makes me very interested to learn these more inside baseball things of football.
This throw and kill their accuracy, or it will help their throw, help their torque, and help their accuracy. So you want to think of your upper body as like it's on a midline, and they call that your spine, right? So what your front side does, your throwing side's going to do. So a lot of guys will do this exact same thing. They'll have a great lower half. They'll have a great weight transfer. Their hips will rotate through. But then this front elbow, this elbow right here, what will end up happening is they'll swing it down to their hip. And you know what happens when you're on that midline? Your release gets pushed high. That's why a lot of guys lean out of the throw. That's why a lot of guys have a real high release point. But what Young does a great job of is just leaving that hand right by his collarbone. Some people like to say, oh, you want to bring your chest to your front hand. Like I've heard Tom Brady talk about this before. You want to bring your throwing shoulder, like your right shoulder, to your front hand. But anything to be able to stay square. And what do I mean by that? I mean that your shoulders and your hips are able to stay parallel to the target. That's the specific spot that we want to get to. And Young has that. This specific position, everybody throws the football different. Everybody takes the football back different. But this specific position right here is you see every NFL quarterback gets to this position. They get to that position where you're square, the hand pulls back to your chest. Look at Josh Allen. Look at Patrick Mahomes. You look at Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. The best passers in the game right now all get to this position where their hips have rotated them through. They transferred their weight. The ball's just trailing behind. And that's how those guys throw for such long periods of time. You cannot throw as much as these guys do, 6-7 days a week, 100 plus throws probably per practice, per game. Maybe not per game, but 100 throws per practice without throwing with your body.
I'm assuming, yeah, if you're going to throw with your arm, kind of like how baseball players have to, essentially, I'm assuming you're just going to tear it up. So that's going to help you play the game longer. But obviously, I want an expert to tell me if I'm correct.
You're throwing with your arm's going to hurt. You're going to screw up your elbow, screw up your shoulder. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. This is a perfect, mechanically sound throw from top to bottom, back leg in the correct position, transferring weight, getting that ball to go through.
The difference is, and this is was my critique of Bryce, is Bryce played for Alabama, played for Nick Saban. Okay, he played for arguably the greatest college coach of all time, and look at the separation on the screen. The separation between him and that guy, while it looks like a country mile, it's only 2-3 yards. That's literally wide open in the NFL. College, this is college open. This might even be high school open. I don't even know how they would characterize this, but he's wide open. So it makes no sense to me on why people were like, oh, Bryce is going to be able to do this in the next level and do it at the highest level immediately, when that's not what he was doing in college. He was hitting wide open throws for a good chunk of them. Of course he's hitting contested catches. Of course he's putting it in the right window. But to think that this level of separation happens in the NFL on a regular basis, especially to a rookie quarterback, is not going to be the case. So I'm very excited to see how this training, this throwing motion, and everything that Bryce was taught over the years, as well as everything that he was taught at home. Of course, he's got great character, great morals, and everything like that. And I'm very happy to have him on our team. I look across the aisle to a guy like CJ Stroud that we didn't go get, who's able to do this, and he has the size. So it's going to be a big year for Bryce. Bryce needs to come out there and, of course, eclipse 3,000 yards, which he was not able to do in his rookie campaign. That's just the first step. He's not going to throw 5,000 yards. He's not going to be 40 touchdowns. It's not going to be his college days or anything like that. Bryce is going to need to overcome adversity at a rate that he's probably not used to. So I'm really hoping that he can keep the mental together, the physical, and of course, his health.
And staying square with the upper half to be more consistent. Okay, so now we're going to look at this clip here from Bryce Young. Now, again, this is played a little bit in slow-mo, but I just want to talk about how he's able to get such a quick release in the pocket, and it's simply because he's already loaded on that back leg. Okay, so, and I don't...
And see, same thing there. I mean, he's a full yard ahead of him. Obviously, the guys can get some hands up. The defender, obviously could have turned around as well. That would have been a pick ball, but... yeah, that's not going to be a normal thing in the NFL for the most part, of course.
I mean, like necessarily like he's rushing the throw. I mean, that he's just in a position ready to get this thing out.
Yep, you can see him right there. It looks like hopefully he goes back, but like he kind of sees it and he almost like squats in that moment. Like in this quick thing, actually, here we'll go back just a second. I normally don't watch. It looks like he almost sits in a chair as he gets ready to throw.
I mean, that he's just in a position ready to...
There it goes. Just
get this thing out of his hands. So no matter where we're at, right? If you're a youth guy making the jump to high school, if you're a high school guy making the jump to college, if you're a college making the jump to NFL, right? The thing is those throwing windows get smaller and smaller and
exactly what I was saying.
Smaller every single year you evolve in the game. When you go from freshman to varsity, all that. So as a quarterback, what I have to understand is I'm trying to do the best I can do to eliminate all wasted motion possible, right? So when you're in the pocket like this is where you get rid of wasted motion. So I want you to see how Bryce Young, when he's back here in the pocket, this back leg has weight on it. It's underneath his frame like we talked about, and he never moves this football. That ball is in a position. He's in a relaxed position. He's ready to throw it at any time because when that throwing window opens, we have to get the ball out of my hands. It's got to be your instinct as a quarterback is when it's time to throw, I'm just going to simply transfer my weight. That's the throw. You are already loaded on the back leg. When you're going through progressions, you are already in a position ready to make this throw. That's where we have to be because when you have weight on that back leg, like we were talking about, 70%, it's under your frame and you can move around in the pocket like so with that weight on the back leg or just go through reads with the weight on the back leg. You can transfer from anywhere. And what I mean by transfer from anywhere is you can shift that weight to your front foot to engage the hips in the throw to drive that back knee through like we talked about. So the motion is a little bit quicker. Now, a lot of quarterbacks, they're not comfortable throwing from this position right now.
Why is that though? Because it looks like a very simple throw, especially obviously he might be making it look super simple, which if he is shut out. But yeah, it looks like he almost like he sees the window about to open and then sits. I'm going to say it looks like he's sitting in a chair. He just kind of, well, I guess lowers himself, centers himself at the ground, and then is able to deliver a strike. So very interesting to hear that many people don't even want to do that. And I'm obviously concerned because of his size. I mean, some of the dudes standing in front of him right now are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", or higher. I mean, they're massive, and he's able to just deliver this ball with a strike. So I think that maybe his problems in Carolina might have to do with his offensive line, the wide receiver group, and so much more. But you can obviously see he has the ability to execute at a high level.
Here, what they like to do is they like to lift the ball up, or they hold it too low, and then when they go to throw, they lift it up, or they hold the ball and they're already open. They're like open with their front side, and then when they go to throw, they close their front side. But see, Bryce Young again, one of the quickest releases, probably the quickest releases out of quarterbacks in college football. That thing is just out of his hand. It's just out now. Where he drops back, where he's holding that ball, that's where he gets rid of it. That's how you guys get a quick release. That's how you guys eliminate wasted motion. You have to be preloaded on the back leg, already have that ball in a position to throw. And again, maybe it's not this specific position in the middle of his chest. Maybe it's a little bit higher. Maybe it's a little bit lower, but somewhere in that specific range, and you could just transfer your weight on a dime. The weight transfer from the lower half is what gets the ball out of your hands. It's a great job by Bryce Young going through progressions. Watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job having weight on the back leg, going through reads, already being loaded in the pocket, having weight on the back leg, and then transferring to get this thing out of his hands.
I mean, it's not the most beautiful spiral in the world, but I mean, he hits them for a touchdown against Georgia. So regardless of that it's not the prettiest ball in the world, it's still got the job done.
Hands, one of the quickest releases in all of college football. Really excited to see how this guy plays out the rest of the year. All right, guys.
Again, shout out. We're going to move on from this one. This is exactly what I've been looking for. I've been looking for somebody to really tell me what I am seeing with Bryce Young. I'm seeing him poised. I'm seeing him able to deliver strikes, but I'm seeing him missing something. That something is time to throw in the pocket, an offensive line he trusts, and a wide receiver that he trusts. Adam Thielen was good, but he was 33 when he was brought on this team, and he was brought on this team with the idea that he might win a Super Bowl. So no offense, he's out. Laviska, DJ Chark are out. TMJ, I'd probably keep over Laviska and DJ Chark. I would obviously go draft more wide receivers, go get some guys out of college, get people maybe Bryce is more comfortable with. We're going to see what happens, though. We've got Dan Morgan. We've got Dave Canales, Brad Idzik. We've got so many opportunities here, and I'm very excited for the future. But if you want to stay with us, stay up on these reactions, breakdowns when they're more available and everything, make sure to subscribe to the socials below. My name is Nick. This has been Roll Coverage. I appreciate you rolling with us. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.